Arrivati. Derivatives. What are they? Well, good thing you asked. And even if you didn't ask, well, I'm going to tell you anyways, because it's the main reason why we're learning Latin. Uh, Latin is old, very old. You may think that you are getting old. You may think that your parents are old, your grandparents are old, or even their grandparents are old. Latin is like so much older than they are. It's not even funny. So if you think back at biblical times, that's when Latin was. So you can't even comprehend it. It's like 2,000 years ago. So here exactly is a timeline of how old Latin is. So the Celts just barely beat the Romans as far as how long their language has been around, language existence. And the Romans, if you size it up, 1000 BC. So, right here, so probably about, 700 BC before Christ. And yeah, it was around for a very long time. It really hit its stride in this part right here as far as language development. So that was about 2,000 years ago. And then you could see that this line ushers all the way to here, and it's taking all these languages and kind of fusing them together to create what we now have as modern English. We've just borrowed from all these different languages, but probably the language that we borrowed the most, or I won't even say languages, but persons and groups and empires. But the one that we borrowed the most from was probably Latin. And so a lot of the words that we have today look very similar to words that they had in Latin, words that the Romans used. So English and other languages like French and Spanish stole words from Latin and changed them slightly. This guy says, these words are mine and I'm taking them. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because you guys are mostly not around anymore, Mr. Roman. So we stole them. And so an example of this theft is seen in words like canine, word that we have in English, which means dog or of or relating to dogs. And the Latin word canis means dog. So we took that word and we just changed it a little bit and we used it for our own benefit and language. Now, other words, there's tons, thousands and thousands of words that we stole from Latin, but I'm just going to go over a few of the ones that are in stage one. Scribit, which means writes or is writing in Latin, and from which we get the words scribble, and a scribe is somebody who writes, and prescribe, which is a doctor who maybe writes a prescription on a tablet and gives it to you, or describe, to write down the characteristics of something. So if you notice, they don't all have to start with SCRIB. For instance, prescribe starts PRE and then it has SCRI. They're not all going to look exactly the same, but they do have relation in the fact that they have some notable letter characteristics, and that they kind of have a meaning that is similar in some way. Let's take a look at another one. All right, actually, this is a stage 3 or 2, I think stage 2 vocabulary word. Laudat, it's a verb, means praises or is praising. Now, from which we get the word applaud. Oh, very good, very good. So, we stole that one as well. We're getting really good at stealing. And a way that you can look up derivatives, so let's say I have a Latin word, and I'm like, is there an English derivative of this word? I need to know. It's pretty simple. All you have to do, I mean, with the advent of the internet, it's great. All you have to do is Google the Latin word that you're thinking of and put derivatives in that search bar right beside it. So for instance, if I were looking up derivatives of eratus, which means angry in Latin, I would type in eratus derivatives, and then I would get a series of hits, and I might have to click on one of them and scroll down through a number of potential derivatives of other words until I reached eratus, and then they might give me derivatives of eratus. We get a ton of words from eratus. Irritate, irate, irritable,